If you're considering to study architecture and are curious about what the path after university is like, this video is for you. Hey everyone, welcome back to the jusjus channel. My name is Justin Chong, and today we're diving deep into something that's really close to my heart: architecture. I studied in architecture school for 5 straight years, so 3 years in bachelor's and 2 years in master's, and have been working for almost 3 years full-time in Melbourne, Australia. And here are my honest thoughts. Let's also start a counter above to see how many times I say the word architecture in this video. Comment your guesses down below and we'll see who gets the closest to it. Winner gets a 10-piece McChicken meal. Wait, what? Winner gets a 12-piece McNugget meal. I've had my fair share of sleepless nights, design critiques, and long studio hours, so there is some credibility to what I'm about to share. I will be sharing about the harsh realities that I had to face while studying the course, but also the amazing positives that came out of architecture school. So, if you want to know the real deal about what it's like to study architecture in 2024 or in the future years, and where it can take you, keep watching. Alright, let's get straight into it. The one thing that everyone has probably heard one form or another: the sleepless nights. If you've heard that architecture school meant that you have to work late throughout the night, you've got that correct. From my experience, pulling all-nighters for a design project isn't uncommon. I'm talking about back-to-back late nights working on models, drawings, and constantly reworking your designs. The to-do list just never seemed to end for me, right up till I had to pin the work up on the wall for my presentation. During my bachelor years, I've always felt exhausted and overwhelmed, constantly teetering on the edge of burnout. Looking back, I realized that a lot of it just stemmed from poor time management and the pressure to keep up at a very unsustainable pace. However, things changed significantly once I entered into my master's program. I learned to prioritize my time better, blocking out times to work more efficiently, and striking a healthier balance between work, leisure, exercise, and everything in between. There was this quote that I came across in a book that I read during my master's years. How did I even find time to read? I don't understand, but I did. It's called Effortless by George McKeown. Burnout is not a badge of honor. It was a wake-up call to me. At that moment, I realized that I didn't have to push myself to the brink of exhaustion just to feel like I've accomplished something, or proudly boast about all the all-nighters that I had as if it was something to admire. It really wasn't. The grind culture had me believing that success required constant sacrifice, but that just simply wasn't true. Architecture school has taught me that managing your time well is not just about producing the best work and disregarding everything else. It was more so learning about how to maintain your mental and physical well-being, as well as working efficiently. Over time, I understood that rest and balance are not weaknesses, but strengths that help you perform better in the long run. Burnout is avoidable when you take control of your time, rather than letting external pressures like assignment deadlines determine how you live. Changing the background a little bit because I don't want you guys to get too bored of my setup just yet. This is my inventory shelf, and these are just all of my blanks that I use for my custom embroidery business. The second reality that I've experienced / am experiencing is a lot of repetition, especially after you graduated and entered into the workforce. As much as architecture seems exciting, and it definitely can be, it also has a lot of mundane aspects to it. My first full-time role out of university was joining this decently sized practice in Melbourne, Australia, and I remember just constantly drafting plans, working on structural details, and perfecting the same drawing for weeks, sometimes even months. At the time, I just felt like I was handling a lot of tasks that were insignificant. However, a chat with my mentor at the time has led me to come to a personal understanding that these seemingly trivial responsibilities often play a critical role in the successful completion of a project. It's easy to overlook the importance, but every small task contributes to a bigger picture, ensuring that everything moves smoothly and effectively. Even so, I can't deny that it really did feel monotonous after a while. The creative side of me was just screaming for help. That's why I decided to start my own custom embroidery business. I'll put through a link at the end of this video that explains why I started a business whilst working a 9-to-5 job. But the monotony of work was definitely up there in regards to the reasonings. And finally, the third challenge that I definitely had to adjust and conquer was the realization that architecture school doesn't really prepare you for the real world. In school, in my case RMIT University, the focus is heavily on design thinking, which is great for your creativity, for you to develop your design process and understand what type of architect you want to be in the future. Whether it be a strong focus on aesthetics, efficiency, sustainability, or in today's age, parametric, in architecture school you are given the opportunity to voice out your opinions. But once you graduate, you realize that real-world architecture revolves around the more practical side of things, like construction codes, budgets, cost plans, standards, and actual project management. These are things that in my opinion school just doesn't dive deep into enough. Let's also talk about the pay scale. Very sensitive topic, but I think we should talk about it. Architecture is a field where you invest a lot of time, and a lot of effort. But the pay doesn't always reflect that. For the amount of work and responsibility, architectural salaries, especially early on, are often on average much lower compared to the other professions with similar study lengths. So like engineering, finance, computer science. While you can climb the ladder over time, it's important to know that your starting salary will not match the amount of effort you put in during architecture school. No one really talked about salaries when I first joined architecture, and it was just more of something that I realized after coming out and being like, whoa, that's it? But it's not all doom and gloom. There are some incredible positives that come from studying architecture as well. Whoa, I look like I'm gonna run off into the sunset or something. The first big positive is the incredibly diverse skill set that you develop. You don't just learn how to design buildings, you gain expertise in problem solving, design thinking, and learning how to juggle multiple tasks under pressure. Essentially better time management as well. These are all transferable skills, which means they can be easily applied into other fields, from interior design to urban planning, to graphic design, and even funny enough for me, machine embroidery, which I'll explain why in a sec. The second positive is that you'll be forced to master some of the most powerful tools in the creative industry. Tools like Rhino, Adobe Photoshop, Illustrator, and in this day of age of motion graphics and video editing, softwares like Premiere Pro, After Effects, and as I'm seeing from my university right now, Unreal Engine, and Blender. In this digital age, the plethora of softwares that you acquire will not just be limited to architecture anymore. If you ever decide to pivot into product design, graphic design, digital art, or even marketing, or if you want to join me in machine embroidery, these skills will serve you well. You're essentially learning the universal languages of design, which naturally just opens up a lot more career options for you. As I mentioned before, my background in architecture really facilitated my creative journey for my custom embroidery business. A little known fact is that when I'm creating designs for my clients, I actually use Rhino to draw the curves rather than use the typical Adobe Illustrator. I find Rhino just so much more flexible to control, making it my go-to for precise design work. To all my Illustrator users, how do you do it? Please let me know. I can't stand the software. The pen tool doesn't work! Doing something a little bit different now. Let's talk outside. Right now I'm currently located outside of my architectural office. It's a bit of a cloudy day, but I don't think it's that bad, so I just thought I want to talk about this point rather than just being in my workshop all day. So the third positive, and this is probably the most important one in my opinion, is that you now have the ability to make a real difference in the world. As cliche as this might sound, let me explain. Architecture isn't just about creating beautiful buildings. It's also about shaping the environments that we live in. Whether it's designing sustainable spaces that can counter climate change or designing homes for the homeless, whilst also improving communities, you have the opportunity to make a positive impact. Architecture allows you to solve real-world problems and leave a legacy that can last for generations. To be honest, personally, I don't really know where my direction in architecture is just yet, as I'm still doing the best that I can while still learning as much as possible whilst I'm still in the industry. But personally, who knows? Maybe I will become an architect, maybe I'll get my registration down in the near future. Or I have this idea of starting up a design practice where I incorporate branding, social media, graphic design, interior design, and architecture all into one space. The possibilities are endless, but because I took this degree, it gives me leverage to actually expand and try to do many different things. So we'll see. Let's see where I'll be in the next 1 year, maybe 2 years, maybe even 5 years. I don't know. Join me on this journey. Now, back to Studio Justin. What do I wish I knew before I started architecture school? First of all, the work-life balance is indeed tough. There's just no running away from that. Architecture demands a lot of your time and your energy. So it's important to just manage your time well. Otherwise, you burn out really fast, and nobody wants that. Second, don't come out of school expecting that you'll be prepared for the real world. Be ready to learn on the job and adapt quickly. And finally, whilst the pay is not sky high at the start, the opportunities that open up, the skill sets that you learn, both in architecture and beyond, is very well worth it. So after all that yapping, is studying architecture worth it? If you're passionate about design, problem solving, and have a deep appreciation for the built environment, then yes, it's incredibly rewarding. The creative freedom you get when designing something from scratch is just indescribable. But it's also a long journey that requires a lot of thick skin and a lot of resilience. The sleepless nights, the tough critics, the lower starting salary, they're all part of the package. And no one really talks about it enough. Hence why I wanted to make this video to share about my experiences with you. But again, if you can power through all that, the skills and opportunities that you get are well worth it. Remember, architecture is not a job, it's definitely a calling. I hope this gave you a clearer picture of what studying architecture is like, the good, the bad, and the in-between. If you found this helpful, be sure to like and comment down below what you think. Do you still want to study architecture? And don't forget to subscribe for more content on architecture and other creative ventures. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.